The old city market had seen everything: celebrations, arguments, bargains shouted across dusty streets, but it had never seen silence like this. The stalls stood open, baskets of almonds and dates untouched, the usual hum of voices replaced by a heavy stillness that pressed against every chest. People gathered in a wide circle, not daring to step forward, not daring to leave. At the center of it all stood a woman named Miriam. A thin rope rested loosely around her neck. It wasn't tight. It wasn't meant to kill her. It was meant to humiliate her. Miriam's hands trembled as she held her basket of dry fruits, almonds polished smooth by hours of sorting, pistachios wrapped in paper cones she folded herself every morning before sunrise. This small basket was her livelihood, her dignity, her fight against hunger. She was a widow. Her husband had died 2 winters ago, crushed beneath a collapsing warehouse wall while unloading goods for someone richer, someone whose name no one remembered anymore. Since then, Miriam had learned to live quietly. She worked hard, spoke little, and asked no one for mercy. At her side stood her 2 children. Her youngest son clung to her leg, his face buried in her skirt as if the world might disappear if he couldn't see it. Her daughter stood braver, though tears lined her eyes, her small hands gripping her mother's shawl with desperate strength. Above them, on a raised wooden platform, stood Lord Hawthorne, ruler of the city. He wore fine robes stitched with gold thread, his posture rigid, his expression carved from stone. To him, this was not cruelty. This was order. This woman, the Lord declared, his voice echoing across the square, has violated market law by selling goods without a renewed permit. The punishment will stand as an example. Miriam lowered her eyes. She did not plead. She did not cry. She had learned long ago that the poor rarely win arguments. The rope around her neck wasn't meant to hurt her body, it was meant to remind everyone else where they belonged. The guard stepped closer. And then. Stop. The voice was calm, steady, and unmistakably human. A ripple passed through the crowd as a young man stepped forward. He was tall, well-dressed, his dark coat cut with elegance rather than arrogance. His face was striking, not only because of its beauty, but because of the compassion written openly across it. This was Elias Hawthorne, the Lord's son. Whispers spread like fire through dry grass. What is he doing? He's stepping in. Does he dare? Elias walked past the guards without hesitation and placed himself directly in front of Miriam. Between her and the law. Between her and shame. He raised one hand, not in violence, but in command. No further, he said to the guards. They froze. Miriam looked up for the first time. She saw his back, straight, unyielding, and for a moment, she forgot how to breathe. Father, Elias said, turning to face the platform. Is this justice, or convenience? Lord Hawthorne narrowed his eyes. The law applies to all. Does it? Elias asked quietly. Or only to those without power? The market leaned in. Elias gestured toward Miriam's children. Look at them. Do you see criminals? Or do you see hunger? Miriam felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest. Hope. She broke the law, the Lord replied. Rules maintain order. Rules without mercy create fear, Elias answered. And fear is not order, it's control. A murmur swept through the crowd. People shifted uncomfortably, some lowering their heads, others finding courage in the young man's words. Elias turned slightly, his voice softening. How long has she sold here? A year, someone whispered. Longer, another voice said. Since her husband died. Elias nodded. And has she ever stolen? Cheated? Lied? Silence. He stepped closer to Miriam and gently lifted the rope away from her neck, holding it in his hand like something shameful. This rope, he said, raising it for all to see, doesn't protect the city. It only exposes its cruelty. Miriam's daughter gasped softly. The guards looked to the Lord. Lord Hawthorne stood motionless, his jaw tight. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. You challenge authority, he said. I defend humanity, Elias replied. The words hung in the air like a blade. Finally, the Lord exhaled. Slowly. Release her, he ordered. The guards stepped back. The crowd erupted, not in cheers, but in something deeper, relief. Miriam's knees nearly buckled, but Elias reached out and steadied her. His grip was firm, respectful. Not possessive. Not pitying. Just human. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Miriam shook her head, tears spilling freely now. Thank you. He glanced at her basket, then at the crowd. From today on, she sells freely. Under my name, if necessary. The Lord said nothing. The rope fell to the ground. And with it, something else broke. Fear. The market slowly returned to life. Voices rising, footsteps moving, breath returning to lungs that had held it too long. Miriam gathered her children, pulling them close. As Elias walked away, the crowd parted for him, not because of his title, but because of what he had done. That day, the city did not change its laws. But it changed its heart. And sometimes, that is how revolutions truly begin.